Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good school year and a good new year so far. Want to welcome everyone to the After School at Risk Meal Program webinar. The After School at Risk Meal Program basically came about with the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. It is an additional way you can feed students a meal after the school day has ended, just what it says, after school meal program. Again, I'm Dana Parker, and if you're watching the webinar today or listening to the webinar, there will be a certificate emailed to you after. It'll go to the person that registered. If someone watches the webinar that is not registered, you'll need to let me know, and I'll get you the certificate for 1 hour of continuing education credits. And then we will post this webinar and PowerPoint in CARS when we're finished. It'll be a couple of days from now, probably one day next week. At that time, if you're needing a certificate for continuing education hours, we will include a certificate at the end of the PowerPoint that you will be able to print off yourself. But the webinar itself will not have a certificate at the end of it. Okay, let's get started here. Some of our objectives today that we'll talk about for the After School at Risk Meal Program will be our eligibility requirements, or what needs to happen for you to apply for the program, how to apply for the program, because it is different than the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program. We'll talk about the meal patterns a little bit. We'll talk about how you receive your reimbursements, some record keeping requirements, and the monitoring requirements of the program. We're going to start with our first polling question. In a minute, you'll see an extra screen pop up on your computer, and I just simply want you to answer the polling question, yes or no. So our question is, are you currently participating in the After School at Risk program? You're going to check yes or no. Just want to know how many are participating, how many are looking to get started. Looks like we're running neck and neck and yeses and nos. Looks like about 49% of you are currently on the program, and about 51% are not currently on the program. Wonderful. That is something new that we've just incorporated in the webinar, and so Gary's up here with me to see that it worked okay, and
you'll still do end polling.
We'll end the polling,
but
so
we'll come up with another one after a while,
and we'll have about 4 more polling questions throughout. So congratulations, everybody, you did awesome.
You can make that go away however you want. Just
X out of there.
Yep.
All right, so it looked like we have about 50 and 50% of you guys that are on the webinar are currently participating, and about 50% are not. So if you're currently participating, you probably understand some of what we are going to be talking about, and some of you maybe are learning or wanting to learn and how to get started. So like I said, with the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010, they expanded the meal program to include the After School at Risk, and the at-risk meal program is in more than just the schools. It can, nonprofits can participate in the After School at Risk meal program. Some other entities that might be participating would be some local churches, boys and girls clubs. So there's several different entities that do that. This offers federal funding to help support these meals in the after-school setting, but it has to be in areas that are low-income areas, or in a school district or school site that is 50% or more free or reduced. This program is a component of the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or you'll hear us refer to it as the CACFP. The CACFP is a different pot of money from the National School and School Breakfast Program. It's a complete different application process, so it's still ran through our program here at the Child Nutrition Department at the State Department of Education, but it's through the Child and Adult Care Food Program. There is a USDA user guide. It's called the At-Risk After School Meals Guide. We've got a little picture of the front of it. You can locate that manual in CARS on the National School Lunch site and under other documents, or on the CACFP website in the resource library. And if you see the booklet is 2017, so it is a little dated. Hopefully USDA will update the manual, but we will wait for it to come out. Some of the eligibility requirements to be able to participate in the After School at Risk program is it has to be offered during the regular school year. This program cannot be offered during the summer months. It has to be to provide if you're providing care in the after school setting. It also these meals can be served on weekends, holidays, school vacations, as long as it is during the school year. So it might be an opportunity that if you are a four-day school week and you have things going on in your school building on Friday, you might want to offer a lunch and or a snack on a Friday. It may be that your district is one that would like to serve meals on holidays during Christmas break, Thanksgiving break. This can be done through this After School at Risk meal program. You do have to provide an educational or enrichment activity. We do not tell you how long or what those activities have to be, but it has to be the activity after the school day. And then the attendance, this meal location has to be an attendance area where at least 50% of the children are eligible for free or reduced meals. And what we're talking about there is it could be in an elementary, middle school, high school. But if you're reading the slide and we're talking about the high school, maybe your high school is not 50% or more free or reduced, but the middle school has a free and reduced rate of more than the 50%. And those middle school students feed into that high school. Then the high school could become eligible based on the attendance area of your middle school. Census data cannot be used for this program. It has to be based on the free and reduced applications from a school district. If you're CEP or a provision, you are more than 50% free or reduced usually, or you're not on one of the provisions. So you can take that into effect. What we're talking about on activities or enrichment or educational components of this, it has to be regularly organized, but not all students have to participate in the activity. Maybe some examples might be you offer homework help in the cafeteria after school from 4 to 5. Not everyone would have to stay and participate in the homework help, but they would be eligible to receive a meal. Now the meals have to be eaten on site. They cannot be just a grab and go, get on the bus and go home. They need to eat those there. And then a lot of times we've heard that, athletic programs cannot participate in like the after school snack program. An athletic program could participate in the after school at risk meal program, but they would have to be a part of a bigger organization. What I mean by that would be if you were having that homework help like we used a while ago, the basketball team maybe comes in and eats a meal, then goes to basketball practice while these other children were going to do their homework help. Maybe you were having Indian education, maybe they were doing some type of after school activity, the football team, whatever, as long as there was some type of organized activity for everyone, but not everyone has to participate in the enrichment. Participants must be, school age through the age of 18. If they turn 19 during the school year, that's okay. If it's a person with a disability, then that extends the age of those persons that can participate. That is just like in our national school lunch, school breakfast, and in the CACFP regular programs as well. But they must be an approved after-school care program. What that means is your district must, it must be an approved, the district must know about it. It can't just be someone coming in and dropping off some meals without the school district approving it. And again, the meals must be consumed on site. The children also, you may offer to your Head Start, Even Start. So the lower age of those children doesn't matter as long as they are participating in your school in the meal program. Talking about the meal service, meals and snacks may be reimbursed if they are after the school day has ended, just like the program says, it's an after school program. We talked about on the weekends, holidays, including vacations, depending on if your school district has labor, people to work, or the activities that are going on. In Oklahoma, we talk about the expanded learning time. USDA put out a memo, SPO 42011, talking about if your school district is operating longer than the traditional school day. In Oklahoma, we say a school day is 6 hours of educational activity. If your school district is longer, your school day, I should say, is longer than 6 hours, you may be eligible to serve these meals in the 7th hour. However, reaching out and with the updated memos from USDA, we have received some clarifications on that 7th hour. A school must go longer than 7 hours and without calculating your lunch time in this calculation. So to be approved for serving the at-risk meals, we're going to look at your expanded learning time. We require when you apply for this program that you send us a class schedule showing that your school is in session for the full 7 hours, not counting your lunch time. And I do have an example of that. So if your school district's instructional time is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 20, 30 minutes for lunch, this would not be eligible because you're only actually going to school 6 hours and 40 minutes of instructional time. In the next bullet, if your school district's instructional time is from 7:45 to 7:45 a.m. to 3:45 p.m., then you would be able to serve if that 7th hour was in that before 3:45, because and if you deducted the 30 minutes for the lunchtime, you're going to have more than the 7 hours of instructional time to be able to serve after the school day. So just remember, and it needs to be after the school day ends, or if that 7th hour, if you've proven to us that you're going to be going to school more than 7 hours, not including your lunchtime. And I've said you could not serve this program during the summer. At-risk after-school meals are not allowed to be reimbursed during the summer when school is not in session. So if you are interested in something to feed your children during the summer months, I would highly recommend you get a hold of Dee Houston, our summer food service program coordinator, and get on the summer food service program to serve meals. If you're offering a summer school, I'm going to give a little plug for summer school here. If you're offering summer school, some summer activities, that program runs a little different than the at-risk program and even the National School Luncheon Program. Please contact Dee and find out more information on that. She will start her trainings at the end of January, 1st of February, and we'll have several trainings for you to attend if you're going to be a new sponsor. Now we're going to go to our next polling question. So I hope you guys were listening, because our next polling question is going to be, when can I serve meals in the at-risk program? And it's going to be a multiple choice. So can you serve after 7 hours of education, not counting lunch, during the 7th hour with no restrictions, or between classes, as long as it's after lunch? So it looks like everyone's starting to answer. Looks like we're looks like about 45 or so out of the 60 that are on the webinar today have answered. The rest of you that aren't really listening, answer the poll. You guys are doing awesome. USDA asks polling questions during the webinars, if you've ever been on some of their webinars, and we thought we could incorporate some of this just to get feedback from you guys to help us understand that you're understanding what we're instructing. All right, let's go ahead and stop that. We've had about a minute and almost a half of that. You guys that answered after 7 hours of education, not counting lunch, with proof, is correct. That is the correct answer. You have to send us proof. You have to show that you're in school for those 7 hours, not counting your lunchtime. Very good. So what are the meal requirements to actually get down and serve the meals? You can either use the Child and Adult Care Food Program meal pattern or the National School Lunch meal pattern. Of course, if you use the National School Lunch meal pattern, we're going to have to look at the vegetable subgroups and that part of the meal pattern. We've already talked about when you can serve the meals: weekends, holidays, vacations during the school year. You can serve one main meal and a snack on this program. You do not have to serve both. You could choose one or the other, or you could do both. The meals are served free to all the, well, what do I say mean free? They are served free at no cost to the children, and then you're reimbursed at the free rate for the program for all of the meals that you served. We receive lots of questions on the commodities. Yes, you can use the commodities you receive if you're a school district and you're receiving commodities, brown box for your National School Lunch program. Those can be used for the After School at Risk program. But remember, you're being reimbursed at the free rate, and you may not need to use these commodities because you want to spend your money on food in this program. And I've said that you may serve a meal or a snack or both. The meals must be eaten on site. You cannot take the meals off site during the program time. They can be offered, the meals can be offered before the program time, after the program time, or the children can eat during the educational time, as long as that enrichment activity is there that we can see during a review, and that the meals are meeting meal pattern requirements. There's no minimum age for this at risk. Like I said, your Even Start, Head Start, pre-K classes can all be involved in this as well. Now, if you wanted to follow the National School Lunch meal pattern, I have it on the screen. Most of you are from school districts and you understand the National School Lunch program. And if you follow this, your fruits have to be offered in the 1 cup minimum for your 9th through 12th graders. You have to use your same grade groups, your K through 5, your 6th through 8, your 9th through 12th, and then the vegetable subgroups throughout the week that you would need to meet: the red, orange, the green leafy, the beans, peas, and legumes. Now, here's our CACFP meal pattern, and you see highlighted in the yellow over in the far right-hand corner that we have ages 13 to 18, the at-risk after-school program and emergency shelters. Most of the schools that are on the program follow this meal pattern. It's milk, you have to serve 8 ounces for the supper, 2 ounces of meat alternate, a half cup of vegetable, 1/4 cup of fruit. And you see that's different than the National School Lunch Program, because the high school for the 9th through 12th graders, they are a whole cup of vegetables at lunch and a whole cup of fruit at lunch. So it may be a little less food, but remember, in this program, there are no upper limits, no calorie limits. So these are the minimum meal patterns that you would have to meet, not the maximums. 1 bread serving. In this program, however, you do have to meet a whole grain rich item at 1 meal per day. So if you were only going to serve the supper meal in the at-risk program, you would need to serve a whole grain rich item for your grain product. If you decided that you were going to serve a breakfast maybe on a Saturday morning or Friday morning, if you were a 4-day week, and you're going to serve it as you're at risk, these are the meal patterns that you must meet. It's a cup of milk, a half cup of fruit or vegetable or combination of both, and then 1 ounce of grain serving. The 1 whole grain rich item, like I was saying, has to be at least 1 meal per day. Cereal can only be 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce. And you may not be following that in your National School Lunch Program. So that would be something that you would need to be aware of, that your cereals could only contain 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce. The yogurt can only contain 23 grams of sugar per 6 ounces. That would be a change if you were going to offer yogurt in the at-risk program. Then in the CACFP meal patterns, we cannot serve grain-based desserts. So the any cookies, brownies, Pop-Tarts, cereal bars, those are all considered grain-based desserts and cannot be used in the at-risk after-school meal program. The meat alternate can be served as a grain at breakfast 3 days a week, and then juice, fruit or vegetable juice, can only be offered at 1 meal per day. So if you were offering a supper in the at-risk program and a snack, only one of those meals could contain a juice. If you were only doing supper or only doing a snack, then you could offer juice at that meal. Snack requirement is a little different in that you don't have to offer milk. Of the 5 components in the National School Lunch, School Breakfast, and the CACFP program, the snack requirements are 2 of those 5 components must be served. You could only serve 1 component as a beverage. So if you were going to offer a dragon vegetable juice, you couldn't also offer milk on the same meal in the snack program. If you were offering the juice, you may want to offer a fruit vegetable in a fresh fruit or a frozen or canned type fruit, or offer a grain or a meat alternate. Other meal requirements at lunch and supper, either one, all 5 components must be served. The milk, the fruit, vegetable, grain, meat alternate in the serving sizes that are required. There is offer versus serve in the at-risk program. I know most of the schools that I've been in contact with, because of the time and how things work, they don't do offer versus serve, but it is an opportunity for you if you have the means and the time to do that. Offer versus serve works much like it does in the National School Lunch Program. You have to offer the 5 components, and a student must take 3 of those 5. If you're going to have offer versus serve at breakfast, you have to offer 4 menu items, and same as in the National School Breakfast Program, a student must take 3. And the slide says not allowed for snacks. You have to serve those 2 components. And no offer versus serve, no any other substitutions. Now let's go to our next polling question. Our next polling question is going to be about our whole grains. I'm going to launch the polling question. The question says, a whole grain rich product has to be served at how many meals during the day? 1 meal, 2 meals, or all of the meals served in the CACFP at-risk after-school meal program? Okay, we've got about 80% of you that's responded. I'll give you another few seconds to see if we have a few more that want to respond. And I'm not sure how these polling questions work, but I think if you hit the wrong answer to begin with, I don't think you can go back and submit a new answer. It's a kind of one and done answer on the polling questions. All right, but the voting has slowed down, so we will end our polling. Everyone who answered 1 meal service per day is correct. You have to offer a whole grain rich item at 1 meal during the school day, or for the at-risk after school meal program. I'll get it right here in just a minute. Now we're going to lead right into another polling question. I might not have should have put these all back to back, but I was trying to get some questions that pertain to what we see in the review situation. So this polling question that I just launched says, I can count my grain-based desserts as a meal component if I make sure it's not too sweet. So basically, we're asking, can you offer grain-based desserts as long as you don't make it too sweet? You guys are getting really faster at answering the questions. And I'm not sure how everyone feels about true and false, but I'm not a true and false fan. And I apologize for those others of you who are not true and false fans of asking true and false questions. You have a 50-50 shot if you're making a guess, and sometimes I'm not a good guesser. Okay, I think the voting has slowed down again, so we're going to end the polling question. For those of you who answered false, you are correct. Grain-based desserts cannot be credited toward the meal components at all in the after-school at-risk meal program. Just like in the other program, you could offer it as an extra, but the goal is to cut some of our sugar out of our meal programs. So we would ask you just to be careful and not add a grain-based dessert every day as an extra. Okay, let's move our slides on. So reimbursement. rates are determined in July. They come out about the same time that our National School Lunch and School Breakfast reimbursements come out. They are only allowed for one meal and one snack that you serve to the students. So you're not going to get paid if you serve seconds, or you're not going to be reimbursed for any adult meals that you serve. The CACFP at-risk revenue that you receive can only be spent in the child nutrition programs. We would ask that you first spend it on your at-risk after-school meal program, such as increasing the quality of the meals, increasing the maybe the looks of the meal, and then you could spend the money on other aspects of your child nutrition programs in your National School Lunch, School Breakfast program. For school districts, we do have OCAS codes. The project reporting code for your at-risk or your CACFP that it will be in your manual is project code 769. The federal reimbursement code is the 4750. And again, you would want to go ahead and connect this with your program 700. And I apologize that that's not on the slide. I realized that was not on the slide as I was reading through that. So go ahead and connect those with that program 700. The at-risk after-school meal program documentation that you're going to need to take, because you know how we work at the government. If we're going to be receiving federal funds, we're going to have to keep some records. So you're going to need to keep attendance records of the students that are participating, the number of snacks and or meals prepared, just like you do in the National School Lunch and Breakfast program, the number of the snacks and or meals served. You'll have to make menus. You will need to keep an expenditure reimbursement worksheet. You will have monitoring reviews that will need to be conducted at least annually, and then staff training, plus your civil rights training. If you are in a school district and you do the civil rights training, such at the beginning of your school year as an in-service, that will suffice for the at-risk program as well. You don't have to watch the same civil rights video or PowerPoint twice to cover the training. One time will cover. Here is a copy of just an attendance record. We do have those under the resource library in the CACFP meal pattern. You can print them off and hand write them, or you can save them on your computer. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. The number of meals or snacks served, just what it says, it's just a way to track the total number to be able to put in your claim for reimbursement at the end of the month. Other required records is your menus as served or your production records. If you're using a computer program and you're going to put those menus in a computer program, those production records will be fine. As long as it has the same information that our production records or menus as served sheets have, you will be fine. If you have any question over that, you might contact your area consultant and make sure that they are okay with the production record or menu as served sheet that you're going to be using. These are also in an interactive form under the resource library in the CACFP website. Now, the expenditure revenue worksheet. If you are a school and you have your OCAS coding and you can print out an expenditure revenue summary or an expenditure revenue detail showing us where the money is spent and the revenue received, you wouldn't have to keep a separate form. But this form is available if you would like to track that separately. You can print your own. The one that is saved in the resource library in the CACFP website has the formulas that it will total for you, that you're not having to re-add everything. Training records, you need to make sure you keep all of your training records so that during the review situation, you can show the consultant that you have met the training requirements and that you do have your sign-in and or civil rights training certificate, so that all your staff that is involved in the CACFP meal patterns or the National School Lunch and School Breakfast have been trained on the civil rights. Some of the other records that you must maintain would be copies of your invoices, any receipts. You want to document your administrative costs, your operating costs, keep a copy of your claim for reimbursement or be able to go print a copy of that claim. Like I said, your training records, and the same as in your National School Lunch and School Breakfast program. We require that you maintain your records for 3 years plus the year you're working in. Now, our last polling question, I think it's our last one, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. We're going to ask, what records do I need to keep for the at-risk after-school meal program? This is a multiple choice. The first one is my attendance record, number of meals prepared, number of meals served, expenditure revenue worksheet, monitoring reviews, staff training. The second answer would be, I do not have to keep any records. Number 3 would be meals served, training records, monitoring reviews, copy of USDA memos concerning the at-risk program. So I'm going to launch the poll. I forgot to launch the poll. That's what Gary was coming out to tell me. I didn't launch the poll. It's hard to answer if your presenter doesn't launch it. And when we get all through, if anyone wants to provide feedback on the polling questions, if you thought they were a good idea, you didn't like the polling questions, you can let us know that. That would be very important if that's something we're going to incorporate as we go on with different webinars, just to make it a little more interactive with you guys. Okay, voting has slowed down, so I'm going to end the polling. So what records did you need to keep? It was the first one, your attendance record, number of meals prepared, number of meals served, your expenditure revenue worksheet, or I could have put there your expenditure revenue summary report, monitoring reviews, and staff training. I tried to throw you off a little bit with having to keep copies of the USDA memos. A couple of you did guess that one, and you probably read the first couple of things and said, okay, that's what I wanted to do. But just remember, it's the basic records. I'm just very, very happy no one answered do not have to keep any records, because we do have to keep records, and things are not good if we come to your school or to your center and there are no records. That is when we have to take action against your program. That concludes our at-risk after-school meal program webinar. Now I'm going to bring it back up to see if we've had any questions. I'm going to try to while Gary's making his way to the front. Okay. I see in our chat box, somebody says I couldn't hear. Are you on? We don't see anything.
Talk to them.
Okay.
One person asked, are daycares eligible? You might have answered that later or something. I did
not. Daycares are eligible for the at-risk after-school meal program. They have to provide for school-age children, and they have to provide some type of enrichment activity. The application process is pretty much the same. There's just a few extra questions that you have to go in and answer, that, and a little bit of different paperwork. You have to keep a set of paperwork for the at-risk program if you're just a daycare. And someone answered, I like the polling questions, keep attendees accountable. Do reimbursement funds typically cover food and salaries? That's I started to just say, yes, it does, but it would depend on how many meals you're serving, what type of labor you might have. If you're feeding 20 meals a day and you have 5 kitchen staff, then know that the reimbursement may not cover. But if you have 2 kitchen staff and are feeding 200 meals a day, yes, typically it would. Okay, the next question is, if we have offer versus serve program, can we do this for the at-risk program? Yes, offer versus serve can be implemented in the at-risk program. How do we apply for the program? You would need to call one of the two ladies that's on this screen right now, Lisa King or Rhonda Stevenson, and they will set you up, send you the link and set you up with a username and password, and you start applying for the program. The application process is similar to what the National School Lunch and Breakfast application process is. Once you finish your application and you submit, our ladies in the office approve, then a consultant comes out and goes over the program with you. Then you start running the program. Then we, being your consultant or someone, comes out and helps you do your first claim. Can you apply at any time during the year? Yes, this program, its fiscal year is based on October 1st through September 30th, but we will allow you to come on the program at any time. But every year in October, you have to complete the application process again. Is the application for the program on the CACFP page? No, you have to call and be able to get that set up from our ladies in the office. Okay, my next question is, also since we are using whole grain products during the day, does the at-risk have to be? Yes, because they're two separate programs. Those meal patterns for your National School Lunch and School Breakfast don't overlap with the CACFP. It's running two separate programs. Very good questions. Things I should add to the PowerPoint. Okay, next question. Oh, that person just thanked me and they like the polling questions. Mm-hmm. Next question, can we use the National School Lunch Program and then use the CACFP for the at-risk? Not sure where your question is going there, but yes, if you're going to, and basically most people use the CACFP meal patterns because they're a little less complicated, because you're not having to offer the vegetable subgroups during the week and meeting those minimums, the calorie counts, and everything that goes with the National School Lunch Program. Any more questions? Do we get credit for watching the program? Yes, since you are registered, I will email you a certificate. It may be tomorrow afternoon or it may be one day next week, but we will email out certificates for those registered participants. Will you be sending the PowerPoint in an email? I can. Well, you're very welcome. And thanks everyone for being here. If that's all of our questions, we'll go ahead and sign off. Most of you have my email. If you have any other questions, wait, here comes a question. As funds are reimbursed, are there guidelines as to what these funds can be expended? They can be expended in your child nutrition programs. They have to remain true to the program 700. So maybe your question would be, what could you spend it on? You could expand cafeteria. That's what I mean by expand. I don't mean construction. I mean, if you were going to buy new lunch tables, that would be enhancing your lunch program. Buying equipment in the kitchen would be expanding your child nutrition program. Buying a school bus would not be expanding your child nutrition program unless you were feeding on that bus or driving that bus around to serve meals. The funds are supposed to be spent in the same year you receive them. You can have a 3-month operating balance, just like for your child nutrition program. That money actually all goes into your child nutrition program, because all those project codes, your 763, 764, this project 769, it all rolls up into your child nutrition. Okay, one more question here. If serving in the classroom, does the teacher need to have the training as the teacher is the point of sale person? Yes, because that person is actually physically handing out meals, taking names. They would need to be trained on what the meal patterns maybe would be. They would definitely need civil rights training. Anyone who touches the child nutrition program should have civil rights training. All right, thank you everyone, and we will talk to everyone later. Thank y'all very much.